Well, how you doing today, Emily and Allison? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having us.
We're so glad. So glad to be with you, Billy.
Well, we are today going to be diving into a really important topic, and the topic is finance. Now, you are both the hosts of Faithful Finance, which is streaming right now on Pure Flix. There's also a book that goes along with this, which we're going to talk about. But I want to start really at, I think, the starting place here, which is for a lot of people, they just haven't been given the resources, the information to make good decisions about how to spend their money, how to plan their finances. And so, Emily, this is an area you specialize in. And so I wanted to just start by asking you, when it comes to the pitfalls that you see people make when it comes to personal finance, what are some of the most common sort of issues that people run into in this arena?
Well, in America, I call it the microwave culture. We have trouble with delayed gratification. Credit cards are so easy to get and so easy to use. There's no emotional connection when you swipe your card and you just buy whatever you want, whenever you want. And so what happens is people are not mindful of what they're spending. And if you don't have a budget and you don't have a plan and you're consistently spending more than you make or living paycheck to paycheck because you don't have an idea of how much you have left over at the end of the month to have a savings plan, then it's just a hamster wheel of never being able to get ahead or plan for the future. And it doesn't matter what stage or age you are in, you always need a budget if you want to have goals and achieve things like buying a home or sending your children to college or even travel. Anything is possible.
Putting food on the table.
Yes. And right now, just taking care of your family can be the goal. But there is a way to do it. And there's a way to do it without fear and anxiety. And that's really our mission, is to give people hope and let them know that we can help them. And there is a good way to live without fear.
I'll be honest with both of you. You know, my bank had this feature where you could go into your Amazon credit card and look at how much you spent on Amazon during 2020. And we did that the other day. And it was, I'm not going to share the number, but it was a little shocking to see that total amount of what we had spent, because it's so easy today to pick up a phone and to go on Amazon.
If your credit card information is saved on Amazon Prime,
click the button.
You just push a button and stuff magically appears on your doorstep
in 2 days.
And there is an emotional high that comes when you do that. I mean, when we're all stuck in our homes, we've not been able to get out this whole entire year practically.
I know.
It's like the joy is buying stuff on Amazon. I mean, online. I mean, we've all done it.
I actually bought a tree during the pandemic.
I bought a bouncy house. Okay.
I mean, you never know when you're going to need a good bouncy house.
I was so excited when my fiddle leaf fig tree arrived on my doorstep because it was supposed to kill the viruses.
Yeah.
And we had an unveiling party for this tree. And then I thought, what am I doing?
Yes.
I bought a tree.
Billy, how much of the stuff that you bought was a need or a want?
Yes.
Yeah. And that is the key question, right? So we went through, because we were thinking, listen, we would go to Walmart once or twice, a month. We would go to all these different stores to get essentials. And so we were then buying those essentials on Amazon, but the number was still horrifying after taking that into account, so it was probably half and half. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't need, or we said, oh, let's do this. We tried to do theme nights for the kids, trying to keep the kids busy. So some of it was in the middle range of, we don't need this, but it's something that would actually be helpful to help us survive the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Right. Your sanity and
which is very important.
It is keeping your sanity, right? Well, so Allison, let me ask you this, giving, and you can both speak to this, but I want to start with you on this. I know for a lot of us as individuals who want to do good, but as Christians in particular, when we look at what we're supposed to be doing, we're supposed to be, helping out, giving, loving others, and doing that also obviously through finances. But a lot of people struggle in that arena, or they say, oh, I'll get to it next year, or, whatever. But why is it important for us to be giving as Christians and to be actually making that part of our financial planning?
You want to go ahead?
No, well, you can start. And I certainly have my view on this too.
Right. Well, I think we can't afford not to give.
Mm-hmm.
It's an emotional a spiritual and a financial decision. But I have found if we wait until the end of the month to see what's left over, we're probably not going to give. Mm-hmm. So I like people to be very purposeful and intentional with giving. Have it come out of your account automatically at the beginning of the month, just like you do your electric bill. It's something that you do every single month. But another thing I like to tell people is do not get bogged down in the rules of giving.
Right.
So if you can't give 10% because you were taught your whole life that a tithe is 10%, it's okay. Start where you are. If you've never given anything to anybody, start small. And then some of my retired clients, they have the gift of time. So people also need volunteers. So maybe you have more money than time, or maybe you have more time than money, but it all falls under that umbrella of service and giving. And I think it's just such a better way to live. And I have found that I am less anxious about my own situation when I'm more outwardly and upwardly focused, and I'm looking at other people and how can I serve them rather than my selfish desires for stuff and things for myself.
But in our world where it's just a click away and we're shopping all the time and we've got these our children and we're trying to provide for our children, like you have to be intentional. You have to make it a priority. And once you do, if you've ever truly felt the true joy of giving, there's no other feeling like it. When you see someone in need, or when you give, even sacrificially, when you don't have the time or the money or the supplies to give, but when you give, there is something that happens in you because it's truly obedience to God, and our lives change. It's like our spirits get stronger. We grow in our faith and in our walk with the Lord simply by that act of obedience.
Absolutely.
And I remember growing up in our church, and they would hand the parents these little envelopes that the parents were to give, the children every Sunday. And I just remember my mother faithfully giving us those little envelopes, and we'd put our little coins in there. And there was just a badge of honor. It was like a moment of like, I'm doing this. And it felt good. But we've got to start teaching at a young age the benefit giving, because it doesn't just come naturally sometimes.
No, and I think
it's not a burden, it's a blessing, right? I mean, it's not a burden to give. It really blesses us. Like everything you guys are saying about how we feel when we do it. And it's not just about that. We're obviously helping others, but there's a connection there spiritually that I think gets missed many times when we talk about this topic.
Yeah. And I think it's important for our children to see us giving and serving. They are watching us, whether we think they are or not. They are watching us, and what we do in moderation, they will probably do in excess in their life. So what do we want them to do in excess in their life? So the things that we model as parents are really important.
So my kids are going to have a very large Amazon credit card bill with bouncy houses, probably. No, but it's so true what you just said.
And their front yard.
Yes.
It's so true.
You're heading for it. Right. Exactly.
And these things are not bad. That's one thing I also want to say is that's awesome. We talk about experiences with our kids all the time and how we want them to have memories with us. And so I hope your kids are talking when they're our age about, remember that time Dad bought a bounce house on Amazon during a global pandemic? What was that even about?
Yeah.
It was in the middle of our living room because that's what happened. It was in the middle of our living room. Yeah. No, I think that's so important what you just said, that we also recognize that middle ground of finding that these things are actually, and you don't do, if you can't afford to do it, you don't do it, right? We didn't overextend ourselves to do it, but let me ask you this, okay? Because obviously this is an arena that you're passionate about and that you're experienced in, and you're merging a number of things here, bringing in the biblical values into this discussion. It doesn't happen very often. You kind of have people who are tackling finance or they're tackling faith. There's a few people out there, but not a lot of people doing this. So Emily, for you, what is it that motivated you to really take those two things and bring them together in Faithful Finance in book form as well as the TV show?
I'm so glad you asked. We moved to this farmhouse about 7 or 8 years ago when my children were young. And I'm a city girl. I was not planning to live on 8 acres with cows in my backyard, but we wanted a place for our children to grow up that was more traditional. We wanted them to be able to run and play outside. This was about my family, and we built an office on the side of the farmhouse for my office. So it really was a way to streamline our lives. And God was just so gracious to us. And what happened was I was fearful that my clients wouldn't want to drive out here or come out here. And what happened was they sat here at this table overlooking our pond, and they just started pouring their hearts out. And what would normally have been a 30-minute or 45-minute meeting turned into 3 hours. And it was deep. And what I decided is everybody has an issue with money. Money is representative of our heart. It's representative of what's important to us. It shows what our belief system is. If you let me look at your checking account for 1 month, which I've never had anybody.
Or your Amazon bill.
Yes, let me do it. I can tell you exactly what your priorities are.
Yeah. Coffee, a lot of coffee. You're going to see
a lot of coffee.
For sure.
So anyway, I decided I can't meet with everybody, but I felt the calling of God to write this book so that I could get this information into the hands of people all over the country and all over the world. And so that's why I originally wrote the book, Faithful Finance. And then it just has continued to grow. And now we also are excited because we want to tell stories of people who are using their time, talents, and resources well. I believe stories are what ties us together as humans. I think that's the most interesting thing about the world we live in is what are people doing? And so we want to tell people stories and give them a platform. And then, of course, educate our viewers. But we think you cannot make financial decisions if you leave out the faith application and your values and our families.
Well, but to your point, like who sits around the dinner table and talks about their faith and money? I mean, those are two things you just don't discuss when you're having a dinner party necessarily. Right. But Emily just makes it so easy. It's just part of who she is, and it's a non-confrontational. You're just speaking your truth, and it's been really awesome to see and to learn and to hear.
So Allison, what are you hoping? And you're sort of speaking to this right now, but I want to give you a chance to really speak to it. So let's say somebody goes on, they watch this show, they grab the book, they watch the show on Pure Flix. What's your big hope for the end goal? After they've watched it, what do you want them to do moving forward?
Well, I want people to, first of all, just receive some joy. I mean, we're in a time where it's, as you know, and as we all know, there's so much discouraging news, and there's so much negativity around money and finances, and everything is happening to people, and it's a very stressful time. So I want people, first of all, just to have some hope that there are steps that people can take that will truly make a difference. I mean, I would love to say that everybody who watches will transform their lives, and their bank account will be completely different, and they will have freedom, and hopefully that there will be those people too. But I believe that these are baby steps. This is not something that completely changes in a day. If someone watches our show and enjoys it and has fun and has received some hope in their heart, if they take away one thing that they can do to change their financial picture and to improve their financial picture, for me, that's a win. I mean, that's a win. Any step in the right direction is an amazing step. And we don't like to change, especially when it comes to our money. I mean, I want to be able to pick up that phone and buy whatever I want. I want to be able to see the Starbucks sign and go in and get my, you know what I'm saying? I want to be able to buy the things. I want to be able to go to places. Like, we don't like to change. Old habits die hard. I mean, things don't change quickly. You have to be very purposeful. So if someone walks away with just one area of which they could improve to make, to help them sleep at night, I mean, that's certainly our hope.
So Emily, let's say, and I know there are people out there who are in this predicament, they're underwater, they're struggling, they can't catch up, they feel like what am I going to do? I've charged all these things. I have all these bills. There's student loans. Everything is piling up. My mortgage. And they're kind of in crisis and they're looking for a starting point. Because I think you know how this is. You get in the midst of chaos and you can't think clearly to even find that point. What would you say to that person? I know this is hard to do, but what would you generally say to a person like that?
Well, the number one tool that people need to obtain financial freedom and to figure out where they are is a budget. And the biggest objection we hear is, I don't even know how to start. I don't know where to begin. I don't know what to include. And I'm not thinking clearly because right now I'm in crisis mode. And so what I have done is I have created a detailed budget worksheet that I give away for free on faithfulfinance.com. You just put your email address in there and I send you an electronic copy. And then
That's easy enough. That's pretty easy.
Right.
You made it easy.
Yes.
It's so helpful.
It takes all the guesswork out of it because you've still got to put the information on paper and the numbers don't lie. If you're looking at the money coming in and the money going out and there is a deficit, you've got to either work more or spend less. I mean, it really is pretty simple, but that's the first step. No matter what the crisis is, you've got to know how much you're earning and how much you're spending every month. And without a budget, most people can't do that in their head. And so that's the first tool that I always recommend, which is why I'm so passionate about it and created this free budget worksheet. It's very exhaustive so that there's nothing that people forget. It even includes pet expenses. How much do you spend if you have a dog on dog food and veterinary bills? I mean, every category that you can think of for your children, for your home. We include giving and tithing. I never want to be the person who says, oh, you can't afford to give. But you just have to be honest with yourself. Another thing that's important about the budget is if you're married, it's a way to have communication with your spouse, to sit down together and do it as an exercise. Not when you're in not at 5 o'clock.
A heated argument.
Right when you've gotten home from work, but on the weekend or something. I have seen it to be a monumental exercise for couples who maybe the wife is spending and the husband's spending and there's no communication and they can't figure out why they have these credit card bills and they can't figure out why they're in the situation they are in. Maybe they're both working and theoretically they should be
able to spend whatever they want to spend.
But if there's no communication and I don't know what you're spending and you don't know what I'm spending, then this is a way for the couple to come together. I mean, unfortunately, money is one of the top 3 reasons that couples argue and even get divorced. So this is important. And it's important that you be honest with yourself and your spouse if you're married. And that budget worksheet is a really great tool to start the process.
Well, it's like getting on the scales after COVID. It's like nobody wants to do that.
But the numbers don't lie.
But the numbers don't lie.
And you have to do it, right?
You have to do it. And then it serves as a wake-up call to sort of push away from the table tomorrow. Maybe I'm not going to eat that second roll at dinner.
Maybe I'm not going to hit that Amazon Prime button again.
I'm not going to hit that Amazon Prime button today. I'm going to make a better decision. Yes.
Well, I want to thank you both for this conversation. I think it's a fascinating conversation. And obviously, people can go to faithfulfinance.com. They can get the budget tool you were speaking of and other resources, find out about the book. If you go to Pure Flix, you can stream the series right now, which is really exciting. And I just want to thank you both so much for tackling a topic that is so important and yet sometimes gets so little attention from schools all the way up to adulthood. We really don't focus on this enough. So thank you both.
Well, thank you. And it is 2 topics that we were taught not to talk about in polite company.
But we did it today, right? We didn't step on your toes too hard, did we, Billy?
And we can't.
No, this is great.
Everyone else, so.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.